One second here. Hi guys, this is Coach JT with Pack Baseball and Softball Academy here with Coach David King of Wow Factor Premier in Richmond. And this is going to be a great show. I'm excited for it. This is Inside the Dugout with the Pack, and Coach King has some great ideas and really focuses on development, which those of you in the community know that that's what we're entirely focused on. So I'll let you say the rest, David. Coach, why don't you let us know who you are, kind of where you're from, how you got to this point, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Yep. All right. My name is David King. Go by Coach King. I am from Richmond, Virginia. I am the Virginia area director for Wow Factor Premier. Um, I coach a 14U, which is 2029 and some 2030 kids, grad class. And then I also coach a 10U team with the little guys. So my whole goal was to go back and start from the beginning with the younger group and work all the way through like high school with these guys. My older group, I've been coaching them since they were 11. So this is now year four, year three for some, year four for some. I actually have one kid from the beginning that is still on the team. And it's kids come, I've had some come, make some changes. We were with another local organization, and then we left there and moved with Wow Factor about a year and a half ago. And yeah, now with them, we love it. There's a lot of freedom. They allow me, with my experience, to run things how I want. And experience wise, I've been doing this for, Lord, a little over 10 years now, coaching wise. I was very fortunate and blessed to coach under some other really good coaches at another organization and learned a lot. And I tell now my assistant coaches and my players, about some of those experiences, things I learned, and now I try to pass that on. I believe as a coach, you can still, learn every day and try to stay humble and continue to learn. It's been a crazy road, but fun, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
I love it. So, as the area director, how many actually coaches and teams are you in charge of right now?
Yeah, so just in Richmond, we're just a year in, and now we have three teams, so 10U, 12, and 14. I have
Nice.
I coach two of the teams and then have one coach. I'd say that's one of the biggest things and challenges as a director is finding good coaches. Um, that's been one of the biggest challenges for me.
Yeah, that can be. And what I've found is being connected, that's always helped me. So, for instance, we had somebody reach out from the community just today asking for some assistance for his high school varsity program. And fortunately, we had a couple of candidates right in the community. So, that can be helpful too.
Yeah,
Um, we do have my biggest thing about that, is if you go on Facebook and you post for coaches or whatever the traditional way to do that is, what are you really getting? It's
yeah,
like a job interview. The first
yeah,
time you talk to that guy, he's gonna sound amazing because he's saying all the things that he knows you want to hear. But if you can get it from some kind of referral source, a friend or somebody in another organization who's looking for a change, possibly. I'm not about poaching or anything like that, but if
yeah,
you're running a good organization, you attract those coaches. But you're absolutely right. One of the hardest things to do, and that's one of the reasons why I started the coaching community is to try and develop some of these younger coaches into being able to step up and take on bigger roles and do
yeah,
that. And communication is key too. Once you get them in there, you want them to be, if you're a coach who's development focused and have certain, you know, culture ideas and philosophies, whether you think they're the best or not doesn't really matter as long as it's congruent, what you end up
Yeah.
having is kids stay, parents stay, and they play for you for a long time, and ultimately you start winning a lot because it's not necessarily how great of a coach you are, but if you continue to have those kids in your organization, like you started nice and young, it's exactly how I did it. And when you coach them through and then you hand off teams to new coaches and you show them, maybe I even had some of them who were really new, fresh out of college. I would
Hmm.
actually have them be my assistant for a season or two and learn. And then obviously I provide them practice plans and things like that or give them feedback. But building it from that lower age up, if you can continue to make the experience congruent all the way through, you can really build a strong winning program.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think um, finding a good coach is hard. I think ideally for me, thinking the best path is to train one.
Yeah.
Training one to do things how you want things done, to show them, what your culture is, what's important, how to prioritize things, how to manage your time. Just simple as making a practice plan and executing it. Um, that looks good when you got your stuff together and parents see that's how you grow. Um, Kids trust you, the parents trust you. But that's what I'd like to do personally. I have one guy that came in and got to work with this fall. He was a recent graduate from a D1 school, pitcher, some good stuff. And my older boys really like that. It was intriguing to them. And I told him, I said, hey, come as much as you can. Here's the practice days. I'll add you to our group text with the coaches, my assistant coaches, and teach you, just teach you the ropes. And I think that's the perfect way, an ideal perfect world, but that's not easy. That takes time and someone that's willing to do that and willing to take the time to learn. Everybody in this world nowadays wants things fast, quick, instant, right? And
It's
parents, especially in travel ball. But I think doing it the right way is more important in the long run. I'm not looking for me personally. I don't like the temporary band-aid, fix is what I call it. I want to do it the right way the first time, and there's no guarantee, but I feel like that sets them up, the team that they're going to coach, and those players, and then the organization up for success in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. And the biggest thing when you start to get a little bigger is making sure that you're present. You don't have to be
Hmm.
at every game, you don't have to be at every practice, but when you're showing up and you're giving feedback and
Yeah,
things like that, it really sets that tone for your organization. And I love that. And you can tell that you're a development coach because just like you just mentioned a moment ago with the age of TikTok and Instagram and, you know, Snapchat and all these things where it's instant and immediate feedback and then it's gone. This
hmm,
is as coaches, we need to step back, just like you're talking here, and say, let's develop these from inside. And one of the things I noticed, and I'll encourage you to continue to hang in there because the when you're growing an organization like you are, and you're trying to recruit new coaches and train new coaches and do all those things, at the very beginning, it feels like you're pushing a boulder uphill, but there's a point where now you have a reputation, now you have a culture, now you have connections, now people see you and they know what you're about, and you're starting to get some kids that are with you 3, 4, 5 years. Then you really start to get momentum,
yeah,
and all of that effort and work and struggle you're putting in now, I want you to know it is rewarded. And it's just like in strength training when you talk about long-term athletic development, right? It's about keeping doing it every day, you know,
yeah,
and keep pushing forward and understanding you might get some bad eggs, but that's
yeah,
part of the growth process. you keep in communication and you move those bad eggs out if you can't reform them and move on.
Yeah, I think just being transparent is huge. Like you said, communication with your families that are involved, parents. I with my older boys, very close relationships with my entire team. At a certain point, I think with them, I think it was 13. I decided it was important. One, I was my goal with the older group. I was trying to get them prepared for middle school when they were young, and then get them prepared for high school as they, were aging out of middle school, right? And one big way was learning how to communicate. I think for kids nowadays, right, they're used to the phones all the time, texting and stuff like that. I said, let's find a way that they can, communicate with me better, and let's take mom and dad out the picture where they're forced almost to, talk. Like, hey, you got to go to your coach with a concern. You got to go to your coach with a question. That's what happens in high school. Fortunate for me, I have a 17-year-old who's a current junior, and it's been firsthand experience for me, recent experience that I can now pass on to families and the players and parents or whatnot. But what I was getting at is I have a group chat with the players where it's just my assistant coach and I and the players only. And that's where we communicate. That's where I send them the practice plans for every practice. That's where they know what attire we're wearing, what, uniforms, whatever it may be. Any questions they have, we, joke around in there. That's our space to communicate and talk. And then that puts the responsibility on them. And I feel like to kind of look back on it, how that's worked. I feel like it's worked good for the majority of them. Some of the you also can't control how someone's being raised at home, what they're being taught, and what parents choose to do what, right. Some parents are just have to be more involved, even down to what little Johnny's supposed to be wearing when you've told him, right.
Yep.
I just think it's important for them to learn how to be good young men. I'm really old school. I have an old school mentality. I was very fortunate to have some great coaches growing up. And I think that was a big inspiration for me to want to give back once I started doing this in coaching, to try to pass some of that on to this generation.
I love it. I love it. And so we talked a little bit before the call that you have two boys.
I do. I have a 17-year-old and an 11-year-old, and then a 4-year-old little girl.
Oh, congratulations. And so what does that look like? The coach on the field and the dad at home. How do you say, are they both your boys right now playing baseball?
They are. My oldest is really big into it, and hopes to go play at the next level, play at college. My younger son, it's probably a secondary sport for him, if you ask him. Um, but he does it and enjoys it. As a dad, I pushed my older son hard, being my first. And then when he was about 13, I stepped back and I decided, okay, it was better and healthier for our relationship to step back and find someone that I trusted and let them coach him. And now I mean, it's grown our relationship tremendously, and just that I can step back and just be dad. I can be there for him. And my younger son, it's night and day. Like he comes to me with everything. I don't have to go to him. I don't have to ask, how it was or whatnot. And my older son, once he started driving, you're not very involved anymore once they start driving. They do their own thing.
They just sort of
So
disappear. I know.
yeah, yeah, but yeah. So I don't coach my kids. At Wow Factor Richmond here in the Richmond area. My younger son, he's on the 12U team, and I help like at practices and things like that. When in our winter workouts, I help those, but I don't manage that team. We have a coach in place for them, so I think it's important. I don't have any dad coaches or his head coaches, back to finding the coaches kind of thing. That was important to me to try my best to find someone that I could trust, put in place, that wasn't a dad. That's a big deal here, at least in Virginia. Parents are big on not their kid not playing for someone that has a kid on the team, and just a lot of daddy ball issues and drama and stuff like that that we try to prevent happening.
Yep, you can't always prevent it. Sometimes you got to go with that volunteer dad, but
Right.
if you can, it does make life a lot easier. I certainly understand that.
Yeah.
So take me through. So right now you're coaching a 14U team, right?
Mhm.
And so take me through. You got a new kid coming into 14U, and he's probably been playing, 4 or 5 years, maybe more than that. What, where do you start when he first comes onto the team, and what is your focus when they first come? How do you meet them where they're at?
So before I bring anyone on, I'm very picky with who I bring on to that team because we can be. We're in a good spot. We don't necessarily need players. We have one kid that's actually. It's funny you asked that. We're considering. I had a couple conversations with my players today. I talk to my players. I get their opinions. That it's not just my decision. It's our decision as a team. But we'll bring them in. We like to do, or I like to do open practices. I like to treat that as a tryout at any of the ages. And we have a kid come out to a couple practices. It's a tryout with no commitment, and we get them to come out like that, and people like that. I think it's good for both sides. And then if we can get them in a game situation or something like that, we'll do that, and then we go from there. But what I focus on for the individual once he's on the team is kind of evaluate him, see where he's at. Start with that. You got to you start from the beginning, find the baseline of where they're at, and then go from there. I like to ask them though, as players, and then ask the parents, what's important to you? What do you feel like, especially at that older age, like you said, 14, 15, they've been in the game long enough to have a good idea what's going on, where they're at, and what their strengths and weaknesses are. But I ask them, what do you want to get better at? What's most important to you? I start with that, try to hear them out, show them that you care about, what they want, and then I give them, feedback with after time on those things, but on other things if necessary.
I love that. I love that. One of the tips, and I sort of picked it up. My daughter was trying out for a 18U Revolution softball team, and the coach had us come in, and he tried her out, and then I wanted to be in there with her during the tryout in the facility, but then he asked me to stay out there in the lobby, and it turns out his wife was one of the gals that was sitting there talking to me the whole time. And
Hmm.
so afterwards, he said, I try out both people. I try out the parents and I try out the player.
Yeah,
And we
that's
make sure
right.
you're a good fit for the team. So he had his wife out there incognito. She didn't introduce herself, just t picking my brain and talking to
Yeah,
me. I thought that was a fantastic idea because sometimes you
yeah.
you have these kids that come on, and you're like, wow, why is this kid jumping around from team to team? I mean, it doesn't even make sense. He's a stud. And
It's a
then
parent.
five,
It's always a parent.
five
It's
minutes
always a
into
parent.
talking to that parent, you're like, oh, I
That's
know,
why.
I
Yeah,
know.
yeah. I'll share a little bit on that topic. The kid that I won't mention any names, but the kid that a parent reached out to me this week and this wasn't the first time, about coming, and this parent has a history of being overly responsive, maybe is probably the right word, to some things, and not biting the tongue, and cooling off, right? So I tell parents like that on a team that's already established. I tell them very upfront, hey, you. you have to understand that here's the rules. I have a player and a parent contract that I make each family they have to read over. And in that rules, I have a three strike system, just like the game. Strike one's a warning. Strike two, I'm going to ask you to go sit in the outfield, create some space, or the parking lot if needed. And then strike three, we're going to have to, you know, you're not going to be involved anymore after that. If it gets to that point, which if it's gotten to that point, it's pretty bad already.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
for sure. Yeah, no, the player and parent contract are so important. And a lot of new coaches don't do the parent
I think
contract, but that's I mean, that's
not
as
just having them,
important.
you have to enforce them.
Yeah.
Right, it's a big thing. You have to enforce it.
Yeah.
If you don't, then it's going to be like the Wild Wild West, and that's not you're not going to grow as an organization like that for sure.
No, and you're not making for a very conducive learning environment for
Yeah,
the kids. It's not good
right.
for anybody.
Exactly. And when
We,
I say grow, that's what I mean. Like it's not about amount of teams. Like I truly just I'm at the number that I wanted, 2 to 3 teams, and that's a lot one to manage as a director, but without a lot of help. I have some, but not a lot. And just like it's a business. Any business, the bigger you grow, the more help you need and more, people you have to get involved. And I'm not looking to do that. Wow Factor, though, I mean, as a whole, like it's huge.
yeah.
Wow Factor's got over 500 plus teams throughout the country. And we got national teams, we got regional teams, we got local teams, different stuff, different levels. But yeah, I think that's the big thing though. Like with parents, when you bring on a new player, it's just being transparent, knowing what to expect. Um, eh, I'll give you a funny example. I've been coaching this older team for years. You come to a practice, you don't see parents on the older team. They don't, whether especially if we're inside, they're not even. They'll drop them and go, and they're rolling in at time to pick them up at the end. Funny thing is of the story is we just started this 10U team this January, and the 12U team started in the fall in August. You come to one of their indoor practices, and I got parents, 10 deep standing at the door because I don't allow them inside. And our facility just isn't that big where we can, we got enough seating or whatnot for parents. So we have a walk-in door and then a garage door. And when it was warm enough, they're watching through the garage door and stuff. And then it's gotten cold, and I closed the doors, and when I closed them both, it's funny that one of my 14U parents has a kid on my 10U team as well, and they tell me afterwards that there's parents are just standing around the door. There's new dads or got to walk in, got to go check on things, got to get the video going. And I'm like, it's just a big difference, after you do it for a few years and how much the parents kind of calm down
Yeah, I'll tell you a
or step
funny
back.
story. I'll tell you a funny story. So in our Larkspur facility, we had you come in and straight in is a bathroom. To the left is the workout gym, and then to the right, you go into like this reception area. So I did have a lot of seating and everything for
Yeah,
parents. And my partner at the time thought it would be really cool to put this open window,
yeah,
from there into the facility.
yeah,
And there wasn't a window in it. We just opened the wall, right?
yeah.
Don't ever do that, man. Don't
No,
ever do that.
no,
You're trying to run practice and you got dad number one and dad
yeah,
number two and dad number three barking
yes,
instructions at somebody, and you're like,
yes.
whoa, whoa, whoa. One coach here, one
So
coach.
there's no window. It was just an open window.
Oh
No
yeah.
glass, no plexiglass, nothing.
No,
Oh
nothing.
no. Oh no.
So we
It's funny. We did practicing or pitching. We were working on pitching about a week or two ago, and inside, and my assistant coach told me during practice I had the door, just the walk-in door open, and across from the walk-in door, about I don't know, 20, 30 feet is where my catchers, two catchers are set up for two bullpen lanes. 10U, mind you. And my coach told me, he was like, "You see the catcher's looking over at the door?" I'm like, "No, I didn't even notice. Right, I'm paying attention to everything else going on." And he was like, "Yeah, watch." And they look over, and there's dads in the parking lot standing at the door trying to coach them and tell them things during practice. I said, "Okay." I wanted to go crazy, lose my mind, right? And I'm like, "All right, I got to take a breath. Remember that I'm back with the young age again, not the older ones." So I called the two catchers over and I said, "Boys, come here." And I thought I handled it very well. I said, "Boys," I got down on a knee and talked to them. I said, "Look," I said, "Guys, there's a time to talk with dad and get instructions from dad, and there's a time to get it from coach." I said, "During practice, it's time to get it from coach." I said, I want you, and I think it's awesome that you have dads that care that much, that want to help. That's number one. I said, but you need to talk to them, and you guys need to be on the same page that the time to do that stuff is on the way to practice, is at home the day before, talk about it. Because we tell them what we're doing. They know, okay, we're working on bullpens this night. Well, talk about what you should be doing, not in the middle of practice looking over. I'm like, that's not the time for that. So, yeah, that was interesting. I have to say, it's been peaceful since I closed all the doors and no one can get involved. But that same parent I was telling you about, they told me there was a dad that was up against the garage door with the ear on the door listening to practice. And I'm like, man, I just, some parents, I just, all you can do is laugh. Like, yeah,
Well, if you ever end up getting your own facility, what I did was after we closed that wall, the parents were kind
yeah,
of upset and they're like, well, how are we supposed to see what's going on? So I put in a closed circuit camera system so they could watch it on the big screen.
okay,
You can
okay.
see it, you just can't touch it or feel it or
Yeah. Talk
voice
to
your
it.
opinion.
Right. You talk to it, but it might not be hearing you or listening to you.
Yeah,
I
it's just
like
like when
that.
you're talking to Tom Brady on the screen when he's playing, you know.
That's
He
right.
can't hear you, but you talk, you feel better because you told him what to do.
Yep, it's funny you say that. At an old organization I was with as an assistant, I during COVID, it was 2020. I would go in and parents would be upset they couldn't come in and watch anymore. And that facility had a parents section, like you said, and they had a window, but it was plexiglass or glassed in where they could see out, but you couldn't hear them. And they were upset because the facility wouldn't let them come in during COVID. So I started Facebook living in a group where they could watch, and they were excited about that. And I was like, well, and we didn't have to listen to them, so
You're like,
it
this
was
is
a
kind of
win-win.
nice.
Right, it was nice. But yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I the facility that we use and rent, they actually are up for sale and want to sell it, and we've been strongly considering it. Just trying to make the numbers work and stuff like that. And I'm huge on keeping costs down. It's very important to me. It was a big thing that when I started, when I came over to Wow Factor, that they told me, and that I pushed to the parents, like, hey, you're going to get development, you're going to get great coaching, you're going to get awesome schedule, you're going to get lots of practices, get to travel, but you're going to get all that while the cost stays down compared to what the competition, around had. And the more and more you get your own organization, you get some things we all know that's just going to raise cost. It has to. Somebody has to pay for that. There's mortgage, there's rent, there's utilities and so forth. But I mean, it would be nice. It would be nice. I'm very fortunate though to be able to get the days and times that I want for practices when I want them. So I guess I haven't had to worry about that too much yet, where I feel like my hands forced or whatnot to get my own facility.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Richmond's a pretty big town, so
Yeah,
you probably have a fair amount of stuff. I know here in Colorado when we're in the transition phase right now where we actually don't have our own facility and I'm having to, excuse me, rent all these other facilities and it can be challenging and sometimes
yeah,
you're like I'm going to rent this and then they rented the cage on this side and the cage on this side and you really can't get done what you need to do.
Yeah, I'm
Once you get in there
fortunate
and you
that,
see it, you're like,
yeah,
yeah, we're gonna have to
there's a
modify this.
facility. There's a facility actually less than 10 minutes from home too. So it's super convenient that I get to rent and I get the whole place. So
Nice.
it's two like 45, 50 foot cages, a small like 15, 20 foot cage for like just tee work. And then there's two bullpen lanes. So I mean, I have the 10U and the 12U team in there together. So I have 20 kids in there at one time and break them up into groups. I think if you have a good plan and, you
Yeah.
execute that plan, it can be still efficient and productive. But yeah, I'm fortunate that when they rent it, they rent you the whole facility at a reasonable price. And then we get a very good deal as well when we rent fields. So all that helps keep costs down.
I love that too. That's
Affordable.
important. That's important for me as well. I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood in North Aurora, just outside of Denver, and nobody in that area had a lot of money,
Yeah,
and access to good coaches like yourself and training and all of that is, that's always going to be a challenge, and that's the thing that we work on every day to figure out how to get around that.
yeah, for sure.
All right, brother. Well, it's been fantastic. What I'd like you to do is kind of see if there's one final thing you want to let our community know. Maybe if there's somebody who's looking to branch out and maybe join Wow Factor or just start their own organization. That first year, like, what's the number one thing you'd say, hey, make sure you do this?
Mm, pray every day.
Amen.
Good, good luck to that. A big thing that I would say, and I don't know, you could probably say this is directed towards parents or families that I wish got spread around the travel ball world more was as a parent, especially, at the younger age. I mean, but I got a 17-year-old that still has, still can learn and get better at the game. So people say when, at what point do they, stop growing or progressing or developing? I don't know. I don't know when that is. I mean, major leaguers still grow and develop and get better, but to an extent. But my point is, if at the younger age, at least, parents will say that development is what's most important to them, right? You'll hear that a lot. That's what they care about the most, and this and that. But at the end of the day, when they make decisions and go to somewhere else because it's more popular or a bigger name or whatever, or somebody else is there. Are you making that decision as a parent? Are you is your value still the same of I'm doing it because I really want my kid to develop? Any parent that asks me, how do you make the choice to, where to go? Start with the coach. Start with the coach. Get to know that coach. Try to have a conversation with them. Try to see if you can go to a practice. I love the open practice idea. I think that it's so simple. It's like test driving a car. I'm not a fan of like just buying a car online and not driving it first, but I'm old school. Go to an open practice, feel it out. As new coaches, like you were asking, that's the same thing you can offer. Offer that. Try to offer something that no one else is offering. That's important. But go as a family that goes to an open practice, give it a chance. Sit and watch. See how your kid is doing. See where you can see where they stack up to the rest of the team. Take those blinders off. Really be unbiased. See where that kid stacks up, but see how the coaching is. See how your kid interacts with the coach. See how that coach interacts with the rest of the players. But don't just do it once. Try to do it two or three times. I offer multiple, opportunities, and then talk when I'm, we're ready as coaches or the family's ready for what's the next step. But I do that with no commitment, no cost, nothing. Come out, try it out, see what you think. You like it, we can move forward. You don't like it, it's okay. I don't know how better, of a situation, opportunity you can get than that because it is a difficult decision. when someone's coming and joining a program, the unknowns. I think word of mouth is the biggest thing, though. Get referrals from someone like you said earlier, that has had some good experiences. But there's nothing like trying something for yourself. Nothing like that, and seeing firsthand if you like it or if it works. Maybe your kid loves it, maybe he doesn't. So that's what I'd recommend on that side. I wanted to kind of share, if the focus is development, go see what the coach is about. See what he's doing, what they're about, what a practice looks like. Is it organized? Is it thorough? Is he taking time to explain things to kids? Or are they just out there at a position taking infield for, an hour or two? For a new coach or, someone that's trying to get started, you better buckle up and be ready. It's a lot. It's it's very time consuming. It's draining, but it's worth it to me. I'm big on the coaching side more than the director side. That's more important to me. Um, I like to reap the rewards of the hard work that I put in and that the young men put in. When I get to see, there's nothing sweeter to me than when I get to see something I taught them click. And when it clicks and you see them do it and their just face lights up and they're excited, like, man, I got it. Man, that's smooth. I'm doing it right. Whether it's just fielding the ground ball properly, good mechanics with their swing, their pitching, whatever it may be. That's the most rewarding thing to me as an individual, as a coach, when I get to see that. So that's what's most important to me. Um, I'm not. It's not business first to me. It's not. And other people, might say you shouldn't look at it like that, but that's not why I got into this. It's not my full. I have a full time job, but it is a full time job for me as a director.
You have
But
more than one.
I do. I have two. But yeah, I mean, it's really cool to look back on the years. I mean, I got one kid that's 15 now, so he's been with me 4 years, and mom sends me pictures of when he was 11 and he was, below my shoulder, and now he's 15 and he's a foot taller than me almost, and and just the growth and that relationship. That's what it's about to me. So
I love that. I
build
love that.
those. Yeah.
That's great. I love that so much. And one of my mentors says, and he said this to me all the time, behavior is the highest form of communication,
Mm,
right? So when parents come in and they're interviewing me and seeing if PAC is right for them,
yeah.
I say we're a development first program, and we don't just say that, that's what we are.
Yeah.
And if you're going to make a commitment to this program, understand that your behavior is going to tell us, does your kid show up to practice 15 minutes early? Does he stay late? Does he do the things we ask him to do when he's not here? That behavior is going to tell us
Yeah.
how committed you are. And then if you do decide to leave, I always have in that player contract, I say, we're going to have an exit interview. Okay.
Mm,
So in order for me
I
to
like that.
release you from the team, we're going to have an exit interview and we're going to have a conversation. And don't be afraid of that,
Yeah.
As long as you're true to what you said you were after and you're not getting that, why would I keep you? I mean,
That's right. No, that's a great idea. That's a good one.
yeah.
Um, Probably very challenging. More on the part of the person leaving, but I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, it's
Um,
fantastic. It actually reduced our turnover, I think, by 22%, but then it also communicated what our core values are. We
yeah.
are here to develop your kids,
Yeah.
and we need you to be in on that. You need to
That's
be a
right.
partner in that.
Yeah. I mean, they're gonna get out of it what you put into it, like anything in life. So,
Yeah,
um,
I love it.
accountability is big. Accountability is a big thing. You got to hold yourself accountable, but to then teach young men, especially teenagers, to learn to take accountability. And it's okay.
Absolutely.
It's okay. You're gonna make mistakes. It's okay. Just learn from them.
Yeah,
So
I love it. Well, we're going to wrap up here, Coach, but I wanted to leave it open for you. So this is a podcast. It'll be on Spotify or wherever you get your
Okay.
podcasts from. It'll also be in the community. If you'd like to share any information, any website or how
Okay.
people can contact you, feel free to do that. Um, and if not, then we'll be finished with tonight's call.
Yeah, no, we have a Facebook page that we use the majority. Wow Factor Richmond on Facebook. We use that one, and then now we have an Instagram. And I'm trying these other social media things. I'm old school, but I'm trying to. The kids ask me, especially the older ones, the TikToks, and I think it's important to let them have fun and not ever forget that, or at least reel yourself back in and don't make it just about competing when you're out there competing. Let them still be kids and have fun. Um, but yeah, so Wow Factor Richmond on Facebook.
And what's your handle on
Yeah,
Instagram?
yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Um, Give me a second. I can tell you that one is wow underscore factor underscore RVA.
Okay, cool. We got it.
Yep. And then my email or cell phone or stuff like that, we
Yeah,
can
if
just
you
share
feel
with them.
comfortable sharing that, feel free to put it on here.
Yeah. So cell phone, anybody can reach out. Parents, players, coaches. I'm always willing to help. You can text me anytime. 804-714-6640. And I like what you're doing with Pac. I like this. Um, I think it's important to help the new coaches. How can we help them? Whether that's someone that played and doesn't have a kid, or that's a dad. I started as a dad. Right, I started as a dad, as an assistant, and then grew into a head coach and now a director as well. So everybody's path, you don't know what that's going to look like, but if someone's interested and want to help kids, let's go. That's what it's about. You want to help, just ask for help. Try to learn. You remember, there's always there's always room to grow and learn as a coach. But yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And I would say to our community that this is Coach David King with Wow Factor Premier in the Richmond area. And if you are a coach in this community that's looking to land a new place, it feels like David and his program might be a good place to land. So go ahead and reach out to Coach King and Coach King, I wish you the best this season with all three of your teams, with your organization. If you ever need anything, reach out. And you take care. And thanks for coming on and sharing, dropping a little bit of knowledge on our community so that these young guys and girls that are out there coaching can have somebody to look up to. I really appreciate you coming on tonight.
No, thank you for having me. We'll have to do it again, do a follow up in a couple months or something, and have a regular call and talk about the good times and share some stories.
Yeah, share some of those wins, some of those tournament championships. I love it.
Yes, sir. All
All
right,
right.
sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach. Bye.